What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to another Snooker Digest episode where this week we are going to have a look back at the UK Championship, the first Triple Crown event of the tournament. Now, before I review the tournament as a whole, I'm just going to big myself up a little bit. If anyone watched my preview of the tournament, you'll know that I predicted all 16 first round matches, and then I tried to predict 4 semi-finalists. And I predicted 11 of the 16 first round matches, which for me is unbelievable. Normally I'd get about 3 right, so I'm pretty chuffed with that. And if I look at the matches I got wrong, I mean, there was Ding against Allen. That was always going to be a 50-50. I got Milkins against Anu wrong. That was 50-50 as well. And Anu was 5-3 up on that match as well. I mean, I think I also got wrong Jack Lazowski against Jamie Jones and Kyron Wilson against Jamie Clark. And look, I didn't see either of those results coming at all. But ultimately, 11 out of 16, I will definitely take that. And I also got 3 of the semi-finalists right as well. The only one I got wrong was Ding. Predicting O'Sullivan, predicting Judd Trump, those were the fairly safe, obvious bets. But I did go for Hussein Fafai, and I got that right as well, which I'm quite proud of. But I kind of felt that with his side of the draw, if he could beat Murphy, he could definitely get past the others, which was like Luca Brissell and Zane Ander, which he'd done. Very impressive week for him. But enough about me. The week belonged to one man. And in life, there's very few certainties. You've got death, you've got taxes, and you've got Ronnie O'Sullivan winning majors. Now, like usual, O'Sullivan typically came out of a match into a press conference saying that he was playing awfully, he needs to hang up, he doesn't like the way he's playing. But in truth, I thought he played pretty well all tournament. His only real bad match for me was first round against Anthony McGill and sort of the middle section against Zhao Yulong. First round, he was 2-0 down, and Anthony McGill, at 2-0 up against O'Sullivan, you kind of expected him to grow in confidence, but if anything, he just became more and more nervous as the match went on, kept gifting O'Sullivan chances. Eventually, he's going to take them against you, and he ran out a comfortable 6-2 winner. I don't think that scoreline of 6-2 fully reflects how the match went, but who cares? It's all about getting to 6 first. It doesn't matter how you do it, especially in the first round. You'll hear it a lot by commentators and punditry. It doesn't matter how you play in the first rounds. You just got to get through them, find your gears, and work through them as the tournament progresses. And, this is something that O'Sullivan's been amazing at pretty much all of his career. You don't win 22 major titles by blowing away your opponent every single match. You've got to dig deep. You've got to mix it. You've got to make hay while the sun shines, but you've also got to be able to find ways to win on a B game, a C game. And, that we kind of saw all of that last week. I thought he played very well. Semi-final, a lot of the final he played well. Parts of his sort of second round and quarterfinals, I thought he played well as well. But, when his back is up against the wall, he finds ways to win. He'd done that against Milkins in the decider. And then, he was 4-1 up against Zhao Yulong in the quarterfinals. He sees that become 5-4 deficit. And he played 2 pretty much perfect frames to win it. Zhao can't really blame himself at all. I don't really think he had a chance in either of those frames to get a win. It was just O'Sullivan, when a question was being asked of him and his back was against a wall, he found an answer. And that's what he's done for the past 30 years. And that's why his record in these major titles is so impressive. And ultimately, I could sit here and list off the superlatives and all the comments about O'Sullivan that you've heard 1,000 times before, and list off his CV, which you're going to read in articles and other YouTube videos from now until he eventually retires. But ultimately, this man is pushing 50. He's just turned 48, and he is still the benchmark. When he won this title for the first time 30 years ago, that was still when Hendry was in his prime. He had to overcome Hendry. He's then had to deal with Higgins and Williams, and then players after that, like Selby, like Robertson, like Murphy, like Judd Trump, like Ding Junhui. Whoever he faces and whichever generation comes up next, he finds ways to beat them, and he is still the benchmark. His longevity is unparalleled in sport. And I know, that there's a slight advantage of snooker in the fact that it is not a physically demanding sport. You can't compare it to a tennis player or a football player or whatever. But to be at your very best for 30 years is incredible. I don't care about that physicality aspect. It's unbelievable. An unbelievable mentality just to keep going and keep going, keep setting records that potentially may never ever be beaten. He's at 22 majors now. Judd Trump's playing unbelievably well, and he's going to be winning majors for a long, long time. But he's going to have to win almost 20 just to get level with O'Sullivan. And I highly suspect this won't be his last. He's got no signs of slowing down. He keeps setting the bar. And yeah, who knows, 22 could realistically become 25 by the time he retires. No, it wasn't just the Ronnie O'Sullivan show this week, and I do want to spend a little bit more time just focusing on the runner-up, Ding Junhui. Now, I've spoken about him a fair few times this season in some of my reviews, and I've talked about how impressed I've been with the fact that I feel like his game has been gradually building. I don't think he's been playing sort of his best snooker, but we've seen a lot more of him in tournaments, and I think that sort of match experience has just been building him up towards a good week. And boy, did he have a good week this week. There's words that describe Ding that normally get thrown about when he's playing well. One of those words that never gets used is sort of gritty, determined, and that's exactly what he was last week. And I think that's what was the most impressive part of his performances. He obviously had to qualify after narrowly missing out on the top 16 to get into the UK Championship as a seed. But he breezed through qualifying, and then first round against Mark Allen, he was suffering from illness. He wasn't playing particularly well, but he just kept stealing frames. On one hand, you'll look at it and you'll say, Mark Allen will be very disappointed because he had so many chances to wrap up a fairly convincing win, but just kept breaking down on sort of 40-50. And Ding just kept making unbelievable clearances from behind. And that grit just followed him through the whole tournament. There were shades of him playing unbelievably well in the scoring department, making centuries, making 70, 80 breaks consistently. But he had to battle so hard. He had a really tough test against Tom Ford. And then I even look at that semi-final against Judd Trump, the man in form. And he, from 4-all, played 2 really good frames to get over the line. And again in the final, he was 3-0 down, 4-1 down, 7-5 down, managed to get it all the way back to 7-all. And O'Sullivan just went up a gear and played 3 perfect frames to win it. But that grit was so good to see, because normally with Ding, a facet of his game is when things aren't going well for him, you can tell instantly. The shoulders slump, the eye starts twitching at about 1,000,000 miles an hour. The arms are across the shoulders, and you just look at him and you think, oh, you've gone. There's whatever match you're playing, no matter who your opponent is, that belief has just gone. There was absolutely none of that last week, and I think I speak for most snooker fans when I say I really hope that continues. He's back in the top 16. He's playing more consistently than he perhaps ever has done. His game is starting to look really good. The only thing that I can see which is a problem, and I don't think it's a problem that's easily fixable or fixable at all, is when he's having to play a shot with any degree of power. His cue action becomes very snatchy, very sudden, and you kind of twitch a little bit whenever he needs to play sort of a deep screw back, because he doesn't have that cue action of a Judd Trump or a Neil Robertson. But other than that, when he's in the balls, he's A1. Sullivan in his post-match interview after winning the final said Ding's one of the best positional players ever. Now, O'Sullivan can be a bit hyperbolic at times, but that is true. Ding is incredible to watch in full flow in amongst the pink and black spot. And, big titles could be coming. He's back in the Masters. Unfortunately for him, he's going to play O'Sullivan first round. But he does strike me as a player that's going to play in pretty much everything this season. This tournament surely gives him huge amount of confidence going forwards. And there's more tournaments to come in the new year. I think he's safely in the top 16 for the World Grand Prix. Then you've got the Players' Champs and the Tour Champs, the Masters, German Masters, Welsh Open, and then the big one, the World Championship, which he'll be hoping to keep his top 16 seeding for. And you never know, this could finally be the season where he gets over that curse and wins the World Championship. But, that's a long way away. For now, I'm just really proud to see him playing well. And, long may it continue, really. But also looking at the tournament from just sort of a Chinese angle, it wasn't just Ding that impressed. Zhao Yulong had a really impressive tournament, qualifying as well. He played Neil Robertson first round. We know there's issues with Robertson. I think a lot of people would have backed Zhao to beat Robertson. But it was the manner that he'd done it. It was so impressive. I don't think I've ever seen Zhao play that well scoring-wise. Zhao's been on the game for well over 5 years. We know what he's about. He's a talented lad. But he just looked so comfortable in amongst the balls. I can only... When I look back on the match now, I can only really think of one mistake that he made, sort of like a glaring mistake. And that was in the second frame. He was 1-0 up. He had a fairly decent chance to clear to go 2-0 up. Missed a medium-ish difficult red along the top cushion. But that didn't faze him. Okay, he got gifted a few chances that potentially other top players wouldn't have given him. But he was so impressive. He held himself together really well. And then not just that win, but he then followed it up with, okay, the performance wasn't as good against John Higgins, but still very impressive to get a win there. And then you're thinking, okay, he's beaten Robertson, a 3-time winner. He's beaten Higgins, another 3 times winner of the UK Championship. Up against O'Sullivan. Didn't get off to the best of starts, and if you're being hypercritical, you might be thinking if only he could have sort of settled into the match a little bit sooner, he may have got a result there. But if buts and maybes are pointless. Ultimately, from 4-1 down, he made it 4-2, grew in confidence 4-3, 4-4, 5-4. O'Sullivan fans would have been panicking, and I think he would have fancied his chances. He just didn't get the chance to put that match away. But very, very impressive. Unfortunately for him, it was sort of too little too late to get into the Masters. But sort of in the same vein of Ding, we know how good he is. He hasn't really shown it as much over the past year or two. Hopefully this is just a bit of a springboard, because he is a very talented player, very enjoyable to watch. Lots of tournaments to come as well. Like I say, can he get into the top 16 potentially for the World Championship? That is a massive push. To do that, you kind of, at this level, you need to win tournaments, or you need to be consistently getting to sort of quarterfinals, semi-finals. Whether he's got that in him yet, I'm not sure. But he's definitely ready to sort of raise his game to the next level. And I think that next level is challenging for titles on a sort of more routine basis and try and push for the top 16. Remember, one other player that I wanted to have a look at was Zane Ander, and I particularly want to look at him because I realised I never made the chance to make a video after he had won the International Championship, his first ever ranking tournament. And look, Zhang, I've got to apologise, I was unfamiliar with your game. If someone had given me 20 guesses in the summer before the season started, and they said, look, there's a player that's been sort of consistently on tour for the past 10 or so years, never really done much in the game, he's qualified for the Crucible here and there, beaten a few top players here and there, but he's never gone anywhere remotely close to a tournament. But now this season, not only is he going to reach a final and lose, he's going to come back a few weeks later and win another final. He's going to be a top 16 seed for the UK Championship. He's going to reach the quarterfinals of the UK Championship and secure a place in the Masters. I would have needed a lot more guesses than 20 to predict it to be Zane Ander, but fair play to the lad. He has found something, it is working, and he's just riding that crest of a wave at the moment. His performance at the International Championship was so impressive. To make a 147 in that final to win your first ever title is incredibly impressive. No one else has done that. And he's continued in that vein. He was, in fairness, his first round match against Slesser wasn't the best of watches, but he got through it. That's all you have to do as a top seed. You just got to get through those matches. And then Luca Brissell, it was an odd match. Both players kind of not fully at their best. But then the last 2 or 3 frames, Zane Ander found something. His long potting, incredible. He was solid scoring. And yeah, I didn't know he had it in him. And I think that's the thing that you look at with the rest of the tour. There's so many players like Zhang that have been in his position where they've been around for a long time, and they pick up some scalps here and there, but they've never really ever been close to a top 16 or that sort of elite level. But it goes to show that anyone can do it. Everyone on tour can play snooker, and they can play it to a very high level. It's all about what goes on between the ears. If you look at the difference in terms of talent between, say, your world number 1 and your world number 50, of course there's going to be a difference, but the difference isn't huge. What makes a difference is that mentality, that confidence. And winning breeds confidence, and confidence breeds results. And, for Zhang to do what he's done in the past few months is incredible, and safely into the Masters, which is a massive milestone for him. And it's going to be interesting to see what he does next. Potentially, like I say, he's on the crest of a wave. That wave is probably at some point going to crash down a little bit. But it's what he does after that. Can he maintain a level of performance week in, week out that keeps him in the top 16? Or will he fall back down the ranking slightly? That's up to him. That's going to be shown in the next few months. But yeah, I really wanted to say a word on him because I've been so impressed. I just didn't see it coming. He's, completely put me to shame in terms of what I know about snooker. And yeah, good luck to the lads. He's got a title. He's reached another final, a 147, a Masters debut to come in a new year. Things are on the up and up, and, the strong incentive will be in the new year. Keep playing well, because you can make it to the World Championship, which I think he's been to at least 4 times before. But this time, he'll be there as a seed. And yeah, those really are the main talking points from last week that I wanted to mention. O'Sullivan again, just incredible. Some Chinese fellas played incredibly well as well. And as is customary with the UK Championship, the Masters draw was made. I don't particularly agree with it being made this early when there's still tournaments to play, which could affect the seedings of players. But, the BBC like to have their moment when during the final they get to make the draw live. And look, it's thrown up some real crackers. The only thing different on that screen is obviously the full draw has been completed. So it's Williams against Carter and a rerun of the UK Championship final with O'Sullivan against Ding. Some real crackers in there to get your teeth into. I'm going to preview that tournament in full in the new year. There's a couple more tournaments left before we call it quits until 2024. You've got the Snooker Shootout this week, and then we've got the Scottish Open next week. Some German Masters qualifiers to finish us off, and then that's it until Christmas, the new year, and we're back for the Masters. But yeah, I hope everyone's feeling festive. You should be after that treat of snooker. Until the next time, take care.